Yo, what's going on, snipers, and welcome back to our Houston Sharpshooters Draft to Glory franchise mode here in NHL 22. So in last episode, we had the entire offseason, and we had the first overall pick for the very first time in franchise history, which was really nice because we could add to our depth scoring, and we got a pretty good player with that first overall pick, that being none other than this left winger Sam Sidhu, who looks like he's going to be a pretty similar player to Gene Thornton in the sense that he looks like he's going to score a lot of goals and be a pretty good player for us. He might take a lot more penalty minutes, but this guy's going to be really interesting. He's got like truculence as well, so he's going to throw his weight around if he needs to. But that should give us some more depth scoring in terms of that second line, and he actually fits it pretty well. So I'm very excited to see what we could do this season, because I feel like this year might be the year that we actually do not finish in last place, because last year we had a lot of wins and we almost didn't finish in last place. But adding Sam Sidhu to our lineup should maybe get us out of the basement of the NHL, which would be pretty crazy. And we also do have one other rookie this year, and that is Roach, who's going to be playing on our top six because he fits it better in terms of chemistry. And yeah, that's pretty much that. I don't have any scratch players, but I will have to call up some players at some point, because Dylan Burrows mentioned why our injuries are off, and the main reason at first was because if we didn't have any depth in terms of players being drafted, then I didn't want to be playing guys that I would have signed in free agency, that type of thing. But now that we actually do have some depth in the AHL and stuff like that, I did turn injuries back on, but they are at 9 out of 100, so they shouldn't happen too frequently, which means we won't get caught up in them, which is a good thing. We might have like 1 or 2 injuries a year, maybe even less than that, which would be good. But yeah, injuries are back on for this season. So before we actually simulate, let's take a look at those players that we drafted and what they actually look like, because that's what we normally do at the beginning of the season. I just kind of curious, put a face to the name, on what like Sam Sidhu looks like and all those other guys. So what does Sam Sidhu look like for this team? Any cool face? Not really, just generic face, and barely any hair for an 18-year-old. So this guy's balding pretty early on into his life, but that happens, I guess. So there's Sam Sidhu. He's going to be rocking the number 84 this year, which is pretty cool. And then on defense, we also have Roach, who's going to be in our lineup that we drafted as well. And he looks like this. Where's the number 67? And there is his hair. Looks pretty good. And then the other guys are in the AHL, so I won't show you guys those guys until they actually get to the NHL. And then I think there's some guys that are unsigned, or well, they are signed, but they basically can't play in the NHL or AHL yet, like they're exempt contracts, if I'm not mistaken. Like, let me just go to the proposed trade screen and see if they're exempt. Yeah, there's 3 of them that are exempt, so 3 of them are back in the CHL this season. So we'll have to play them in the NHL lineup or wait a few years before they could actually play in the AHL. Okay, so now that that is done, let's get our season simulated and see what happens. Hopefully we do not run into any injuries, even though we do have them on now. And yeah, hopefully this team could be not the bottom team in the NHL, but hopefully we do still have a pretty high up pick. Not that, actually in a sense, we don't really want a high up pick, because if we do have a high up pick, we're just making more of a problem for us in terms of salary cap down the road. So we kind of want to have maybe like a 5th overall pick or something that we could make our team a little bit cheaper in terms of depth scoring, because we do have a lot of elite players right now. So preseason wise, we go 2-4-1, which is not too bad. I'll definitely take it. At least it's better than previous years. Well, last year was actually better than that, I think, but not too bad. Let me just take a look at our coaching staff, because I'm kind of curious on when our coach's contract expires. 2 more seasons, so yeah, Kalanos might have to get re-signed again. We do have some good alternate coaches we could always bring in instead, but at some point we might need to look for a new head coach as well, or we could try and get this guy back who's a 70% scheme fit. So yeah, this guy definitely will probably need to be re-signed, because 70% is really good for a scheme fit. So that is that. I also showed you guys the draft class at the end of last episode, I think, and basically it's a defenseman heavy draft, at least for the top 5. So I think if we do get a top 5 pick, we don't want necessarily to have 1st overall. Like, we could have 5th overall and get a defenseman at number 5 as well. But regardless, this draft is going to be good to help us out in terms of our defense, which is something that is probably our main concern right now, even though we do have Jaskalainen, and what the heck is that guy's name? We have a lot of guys' names that I can't remember. He was a Russian defender? Yeah, Tertukin. That's who I meant. Okay. Just because we have Teratukin doesn't mean anything, because everybody else here doesn't really have much potential. Like, there's some with some top 4 potential and whatnot, but yeah, that defense doesn't really have the greatest potential, so we should probably try and find more defensemen this year at the draft, even if these guys are going to be somewhat solid at their overall points. But anyways, let's get the season done with and see what happens, and hopefully none of our guys get injured, because that could derail our season completely. But yeah, hopefully we just have a good season and do not finish bottom of the league, because that would be nice not to be bottom of the league for the first time. We lose our opening game of the season, not a surprise. And we're going to lose a few more games in a row, and there's already been an injury in the AHL, which is one of our prospects, I think, that I drafted, so I'll have to go replace player. So 9 out of 100 seems like it's still going to be affecting our sim, so this episode might be a little bit slower since we're simming an entire season and there is injuries. So I think, wait, Duke Ferraro was probably, I don't remember, oh yeah, it was probably where Alba was. But we need to make sure those prospects always get in the lineup once they have a chance to again. And there's a win, there's a shootout loss, so there's some points. Damn, the AHL is getting hit with injuries at least. But that Omen guy at least isn't somebody we drafted. Because I don't really care about the guys that we signed in free agency. It's about the guys we drafted. We got a couple wins in a row here. This is a pretty good month so far. And Tursunbayev has been injured in the AHL. That's another one I've drafted, I think, because it sounds like an EA-generated name. And Duke Ferraro goes down again. See, right now it's just all the injuries are the AHL team, which kind of sucks, but it is what it is. So we will put these guys back in. So Tursunbayev was right there. And then we still have, Ferraro is still currently out with an injury. Hopefully he's back pretty soon. And Dave Landon has been injured in the NHL, which means we are going to have to actually call somebody up. So I will just call up Aegon and use him as a depth piece, I think. But that really sucks to suffer an injury to Landon. That is our first injury in our franchise mode. So Aegon is going to get an opportunity to play on that third line. He actually fits that third line, which is also pretty good. We'll just throw him also into the special teams, which hopefully he fits in as well. But, oh no, he doesn't really fit the power play. But I'm just going to do it anyways because he's only going to be there for a little bit and then he's going to be scratched. So that's good. And then we need to go back to the AHL and throw in some line changes. We'll move that up and then we'll throw in who wants to be here. We'll just throw Mellberg in there for now. And that should be fine, I think. Extra attackers, 3-on-3. And we'll also throw in Sim on this. So actually, Sim is already probably on 3-on-3, yeah. So we'll just throw in that other dude again, which is Mellberg. But yeah, hopefully we don't get too much injuries because like I really do not want the season sim to take like too long. So because all these line adjustments right now are making the season take longer than probably was in previous episodes. So that's the main reason why I had them turned off, is just to make our seasons go a lot faster. And yeah, they're kind of problematic to an extent. But yeah, let's see if we can get some more wins here, as Landon is out of the lineup, which is kind of a big blow, and now he is back, which is good because he's like a 73. He's definitely better than Aegon. But he's actually up to a 75 now, so he's actually growing pretty well. Maybe he'll actually become a top 9 forward at some point because of all the ice time he's been getting. And Omen is back for the AHL. Doesn't really matter about him because Omen's just a guy we signed. And Dyke's been injured. Let's go replace player. But we're scoring goals this season, it looks like, which is good because we just scored 6 goals against Buffalo. We're getting hit with so much injuries in the AHL, it's actually kind of annoying. Dyke, I don't know if I drafted him. Did I draft him? No, I didn't, so I don't really care. We can leave him out of the lineup. It's all the same. We've won multiple games in a row and getting points in multiple games in a row, even though we did lose that one in a shootout. Ludwig Nilsson was another guy I didn't draft, right? Yeah, just got to make sure on those fronts. Because obviously we need our prospects to be playing, as Orlando Ryder has gone down with an injury. So that is one of our prospects. He is separated his shoulder, so that's a pretty big injury for the young man. There's 3 losses in a row, and we aren't claiming Victor Rask. Last game of the month is an OT win over Edmonton. Nice. Seems like we do string together a couple wins in a row, and then we suffer a lot of injuries and then lose a lot of games. Seaback has been injured in the minors. That's another one of our prospects. And Kyler Morales has been injured. That is a major loss for a few days. That is our top liner. So we will just throw Aegon in that same spot, and I believe he should fit it pretty decently. Yeah, okay, good. But still, that is a pretty big blow to our team. At least it's only for a few days, but still. To lose Morales, that's our first overall pick, or not first overall pick, but our first ever pick in this franchise mode. And yeah, losing him is a pretty big piece to lose for this team, but at least it's only for a few days. So hopefully that top line can still do pretty good. I could have moved Sam Sidu up, but I'm not going to do that. And Morales is already back, which is good, because I need him back in the lineup. There you go. And Seaback is back for the AHL. He also needs to be thrown back in, so we'll take Nilsson out. Wait, Seaback plays what position again? He actually might be a winger. Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, these injuries are kind of annoying. I don't know if I should turn them back off for next season. You guys can let me know if you think I should, but we're just getting slammed with a lot of injuries this year, especially in the AHL as Tursunbayev goes down again. But so far we're 13, 22, and 7 in the NHL. Who is back from injury? Looks like Ryder and Tursunbayev. So we got to take out Svensson. Throw back in Orlando Ryder, our enforcer defenseman. And then we also got to throw Tursunbayev back in, which I think I'll just throw him in at the center spot for now, because that makes sense. And now the game, we need to quit out of this because or else we're not going to be able to see what the sim is. So let's continue to simulate. We're 13, 24, and 8. And we're not even close to being done the season yet because these injuries have kind of held us up a little bit. As Dave Smolinski goes down, man, I might have to turn the injuries down because the AHL seems to still get slammed even if it's at 9 out of 100. I mean, at least our NHL team hasn't got slammed, but this young AHL team needs to be playing games and instead they're getting injured. So Smolinski is back in. That is good. Game against Seattle is a 4-3 loss. And Gene Thornton has injured his shoulder. Damn, another one of our top guys going down with an injury. Those are probably going to derail our chances of actually not finishing in the basement this season, having Morales out for a few days and Gene Thornton out for a few days. But at least they're not long-term injuries because those would derail our chances completely. Game against Chicago, 4-3 loss. There's a shootout win, another win over LA. Yeah, we've been having a couple winning streak weeks, which is good. Winning streaks, jeez, I can't even speak. Also, sorry if I sound a little frantic. I just woke up, so I might be a little bit overtired, because I feel like I am. But there you go, Seaback in the lineup for the AHL team again. Let's see if we can get some more wins this season. As Roger Churtis has been injured, so that's a defenseman. So we don't actually have a depth defenseman in the NHL. But let's just go replace player. And it's a one game where he's not in the lineup. So once again, our NHL team doesn't seem to be getting injured long term. But at least our AHL team is the one that's taking the hit for the injuries because I would rather that. And it says it's a -3, but it's a glitch right now because that's a 0 for sure. We know better than that. There's a win over the Devils. We're going to just go seller, and we're going to go continue simulating. So we do not care about the trade deadline. But we have 20 wins already on the season, so I think we're already going to potentially pass our best season yet, if I'm not mistaken. There's a win over Montreal. Game against Colorado is a loss. We do beat Vancouver. Yeah, I feel like we're going to have around the similar season as last year, but hopefully we do not finish in the basement because it would be nice to not be the last team in the NHL for the first time. Smolinski is back. Yeah, that AHL team has just been slammed. A lot of these guys must be injury prone or something. There's a 7-1 loss. I don't like that. There's a 4-1 win, a 6-4 win. We have 25 wins. I think we had 25 wins all of last season, so I think we just passed our best season yet. We're almost at 30 wins. Can we hit 30 wins? Yes, we can. We hit 30 wins for the very first time in franchise history. We finished 30, 42, and 10. So we probably weren't the worst team in the NHL, I would think. Yep, we weren't the worst team even in our division. The worst team in our division was the Predators, so we actually do not finish in the basement. Also, we finished ahead of the Flyers, I think. Well, the Flyers could still pass us because they still got one more game. And we finished way above the Canadiens, who had a terrible season. Jeez. So, yeah, we are not at the bottom of the league, which is really nice to see that we actually didn't finish in the basement. Let's advance a day and get this last game of the season done for the rest of the NHL. There we go. And now we can take a look at our team stats and player stats for this year and just see what we did. And yeah, hopefully this year we didn't finish in the bottom in terms of scoring and all that type of thing either. So the best team in the league this year, though, was the Colorado Avalanche. In terms of us, though, we finished 31st. The only two teams behind us were Nashville, Montreal, and Philadelphia was actually tied with us with the exact same record, but they do have more ROW, and we scored more goals than they did, which is kind of interesting. Goals for per game. In terms of offense, let me just see. Where were we located? Probably around the bottom, I would assume. Even though we did score more goals than last year. Yep, 2.93, so we finished ahead of quite a few teams in terms of goals, including the Washington Capitals, Arizona, Ottawa, Calgary, the Devils, the Flyers, the Kraken, the Predators, Kings, Montreal. So we finished above a lot of teams, so we might have actually been closer to mid-table, which is pretty nice. So our offense is definitely getting better. Goals against is still our problem, as we still have the second worst goals against in the NHL, so we need to get our goaltending problem fixed still, and obviously our defense still needs to improve a lot if we want to actually make the playoffs. So 3.79, yeah, that's the second worst in the NHL. In terms of our power play, it looks like it's still clicking pretty good. Yep, 22.2%. Last year it was one of the top teams, I think, as well, if I'm not mistaken, so that's really good to see we have a top power play unit still. And then our penalty kill unit, looks like it was still pretty good as well at 84.3. Yeah, so our special teams are still doing pretty good. I like this coach. It seems like our special teams do good. And it's just more about 5-on-5 that we need to keep the puck out in the net. We need to find a way to do that. So let's take a look at our player stats for the season. We'll also take a look at the AHL players that we have down there. But starting off with our center core is Raimo Jääskeläinen had 80 points this year. He's an 89 overall still. So he didn't really develop much more, but he's still putting up around the same amount of points as he's always did. He was only a -10, so that is pretty nice to see that we our top guns were not even that badly minus. So we're starting getting to the point where we're almost breaking even, and we're almost going to have actually plus players in the lineup, which is pretty nice. So nice season from Jääskeläinen. Pete Pasquale, 31 points. He's up to a 74, so he's developing quite well. Had less points than last year, but 18 goals is pretty solid. He is getting power play time, though, so that might be the reason why. And he is winning a decent amount of face-offs as well. Then we go to our next centerman in Borah Zubov, who's still probably our weak link. He's 72 at 23. Don't really see him developing much more, but he was only a -20 this season, which is pretty solid. And yeah, 19 points is not too bad because I think he had less last year. Yeah, so he's starting to pick up a little bit more points. So that's always good. And then we go to our left wingers. Kyler Morales was only a -2 and had 83 points in 81 games. Obviously, he missed one game to injury, but only a -2. That is pretty amazing since coming back from the first season where he was a -134. So this team is definitely getting better. 44 goals this year. Is that a career high as well? Yep, a career high in goals for Kyler Morales this year, which is really nice. And then his line mate, Gene Thornton, was a -9, missed one game as well due to injury with 80 points. Only 33 goals this year, but he is going to have to get re-signed to a big contract this offseason because he is one of the big three. In his rookie season, Sam Sidhu had 47 points, not too bad. 25 goals, he's up to an 85 now. Obviously, he's going to improve upon that next season, I would assume. And then George Forster, 35 points, that's not too bad. He's an 82 overall now. He was a third round pick. I thought he was a 5th rounder, but he's a really good bottom 6 type of option at the moment. Todd Malhotra, 35 points, not too bad. Holloway, 20 points. Agon had 2 points in 6 games. It's not too bad. Right wing wise, Korostin, 56 points. He had 25 goals. So again, Korostin seems to be doing pretty good for a 79 overall. So that's Korostin. Landon, 29 points, and he's a 75, so he's developing quite well. And then Goldobin, 19 points. He doesn't look like he's going to really grow much more than a 73, unfortunately. As for our defense, Teratukin had 49 points, which is pretty good. He's up to an 87 overall, so we're going to be having to sign him next offseason to an expensive contract probably. And everybody else was below 25 points. Christopoulos doesn't really matter that much. But Ty Dubnyk was pretty solid. Mikonov was okay. Turris was okay. And Reed Roach in his first season was not terrible, but he's more of a defensive defenseman. As for our goaltending tandem, Sven Jansson, who was our original starting goaltender a few years ago, he went 23, 33, and 6, so he had 23 wins, which is a best for a goalie for us. 2 shutouts, an 897, and a 3.67, which isn't terrible. And then our backup in Joseph was actually not too bad either, but he did lose a bunch of games. And he also picked up a shutout, so not too bad from our goaltending tandem this season. Liking what I'm seeing. Hopefully these guys get some more development, but both of them are staying around at 74 to 76 right now, which means hopefully that Soderstrom in the minors could get some good development. Let me take a quick look at our AHL team down there just to see who's been doing what. So Sim is putting up points in the minors, Tursunbayev is as well. Seaback, looks like they're not really growing, but they are putting up points, which is kind of a weird thing to have. So yeah, hopefully the AHL team continues to get some development so some of those guys could jump into our lineup next season. As for our goaltenders down there, Kahn was pretty solid and Soderstrom was not terrible. He's a 68 at 21, so he is taking a little bit longer to develop. Hopefully he could get up to like the 70s soon so we could actually start using him in the NHL. Let me take a quick look around the league just to see who led the league in goals and all that type of thing, and then we'll take a look at, or we'll sim up to the draft and find out where we're drafting and all that type of thing. So the most points this year was Mark Scheifele, which is not a surprise, 110 points. McKinnon up there with 108, and Connor McDavid with 101. Most goals this season was McKinnon with 51, but we do have one guy up there, and that is Kyler Morales with 44. Last year it was Gene Thornton that was up there, so that's pretty neat to see. We're actually getting guys up there in terms of goals. Defensively, the best defenseman was Quinn Hughes. The best goaltender this year was Spencer Knight with 46 wins. The best rookie this year was Joakim Kimmel with 50 points. DeMaio was also up there at 50 points. This guy was the 4th overall pick. When we had the 1st overall pick, there was also... I want to take a look at that other guy. Oh, Dominguez. Yeah, that guy could have won 1st overall as well. That was his rookie season. He had 28 goals and 12 assists, so he scored more goals than Sidu, but Sidu picked up more assists. So it will be interesting to figure out which one ends up being the better of the two players, because they both are pretty much the exact same type of thing. And yeah, that's pretty much that. So now that that is done, let's sim up to the draft lottery results and the awards and see if we win any awards this season. And then we'll also take a look at where we're drafting, and hopefully it's not 1st overall necessarily, because I do not want to be spending too much more money on a lot of guys, because we do have a lot of elite players at this stage, so it's going to start being pretty expensive for our team down the road. So because we do got guys locked up to 8 years, and then like I said, Gene Thornton needs to be re-signed this offseason, as well as I think George Forster. So we're going to be spending a bit more money this offseason. So, who's going to win the Stanley Cup this season? It's going to be the Florida Panthers, and the Toronto Marlies are going to win the AHL. So that's pretty interesting. Let's take a look at those awards and the playoff tree. So the playoff tree, so Florida won over Anaheim in 7 games. Interesting. And Florida went to 7 games in almost every series except for their Columbus one, which is pretty crazy. So that team definitely played a lot of games. Colorado won the President's Trophy this year, and yeah, Florida Anaheim Stanley Cup Final. 4 awards. Scheifele wins the Art Ross. McKinnon wins the Hart. Quinn Hughes wins the Norris. McKinnon wins the Bing. Kimmel wins the Calder. Reinhart wins the Conn Smythe. Lankinen wins the Vezina, which is kind of weird. And he also wins the Jennings. Romanov is going to win the Bill Masterton. LaHoo wins the Jack Adams. Pedersen wins the Selke. McKinnon the Lindsay. And the Richard. Interesting. AHL-wise, any awards for our AHL team? Doesn't look like it, unfortunately. Actually, there is one. Going to Orlando Ryder. He gets the Yannick Dupre Memorial Award just because of his involvement in the community, so that's pretty nice to see. Because I think, isn't he an enforcer or no? Not sure if he's the enforcer, because I know we have an enforcer, but not sure if it's him or not. So that is that, and now we get to find out where we're drafting, and hopefully it's not number 1 like I said. Hopefully we fall back a bit, maybe we just get 5th overall, because we do want guys that will be not as good as these elite players we have on our team, because they're also going to be demanding a ton of cash. And we are going to be having the 4th overall pick this year, so I'll definitely take that. The Islanders, they'll move from 9-1. Montreal and Nashville got kind of shafted because they had terrible seasons, especially Montreal. So that's interesting. So the 4th overall pick means we're going to definitely get a defenseman in to help out our team. Let's take a look at the retired players. Not that it matters much. So Crosby and Ovechkin are retiring, just in case you wanted to know about that. But I don't really take a look at these retirements too often because it doesn't really matter. It doesn't apply to us unless we end up losing guys. But best goalie to retire is Marc-Andre Fleury. I guess he returned to Pittsburgh, which is actually pretty sick. So there's the goalie retirements as well. Now we got to take a look at that draft class again and the progress reports and the contract situation, and that'll be it for this episode. Those guys are now coaches. Interesting. And coach retirement wise, we did lose Sylvain Trudeau in our NHL team, which I don't know if I don't think that was our head coach, right? Because if that was our head coach, that would be a major loss. I don't think that was our head coach. It might have actually been our head coach. I remember signing that dude, but he could be one of our associates. Let me take a look at that quickly, because if we did lose our head coach, we are in for some big things this offseason. Kalanos was our head coach, so we lost our assistant coach. So that kind of sucks, but we'll have to find another assistant coach maybe. So that's that. Let's take a look at this draft class again and see what we could get at 4th overall. So, yeah, it's a defensive-heavy draft, which means we're more than likely going to get a choice between Marian Hlinka, who's a two-way defenseman, and he's a right-handed defenseman, which is something we don't have because I think Tursenby is a left-handed defenseman. Or we could go with Liam Hedman, who's also a right-handed two-way defenseman. To me, it looks like Hedman would be the better of the two options, and that's why he's a gem. So I think I would be leaning towards Liam Hedman over the two. But if for some reason we do not want to take a league guy, there's also all these options as well. So that's that. Any low leads in later rounds that we could pin, because that would be pretty nice. Because if we could find some steals in other rounds, we're going to make this team pretty good in terms of depth, and then those guys won't ask for as much money. There is a guaranteed low elite defensive defenseman that we're definitely going to pin. He'll definitely be one of our picks, I think, this year, because we definitely could use more defensive prospects, and to have him in a low elite, that's actually like the perfect thing. That guy's supposed to be first round. The rest of these guys aren't guaranteed. Goalie prospect wise, doesn't really look like there's any huge goalies. There is some that are supposed to go in like the 2nd round though, in 3rd round. So there probably is some good goalies out there, but I don't know if we really want to draft more goalies because we did draft some last year as well. So that is that. Let's take a quick look at our progress reports and the contract situation, and then that'll be it for this episode. So, looks like we're getting a lot of good growth, which is a good thing. And some of it was statistical based, which kind of sucks, but it will make our team a little bit better for now. Interestingly enough, Joseph did not get any development. And then in the system, looks like we're getting some good development as well. Reed Roach is up to a 67. Ozelinch is still a 67. Cons is 70. Soderstrom's still at 68, but hopefully he's like a 70-something by next season. But yeah, we're getting some development, which is always good. And yeah, let's take a quick look at that contract situation as well. So all expiring. So yeah, Gene Thornton is going to be the big one. Yeah, he's going to be super pricey. More than likely, he's going to be wanting less when we actually get to the re-sign stage, but right now he wants a lot for 8 years, so we're going to have to sign him up for a long-term deal. We also got George Forster, who wants a decent amount of money. Well, 2.6 ain't too bad. We could give him a 8-year deal at $3 million if we want to, because we know this guy's going to be one of our better players in terms of like depth scoring. And then Karostin still probably wants, he still wants a lot of money because he put some points. But everybody else should be relatively cheap. Lannon wants points or money. A lot of these guys want money, but they're going to have to probably be qualified, I would assume. So those are who's up. And then also our goaltending tandem is up as well. Both these guys want less money than last year, I think. Yep, that's pretty good. So anyways, guys, that's going to do it for this episode of our Houston Sharpshooters Draft to Glory franchise mode. So in next episode, we'll have another off season. And I think this team is getting close to probably making the playoffs at some point. If we could add a good defenseman at the draft or a good couple defensemen, this team might end up starting to get closer to 500 hockey, which is pretty nice. So let me know what you guys think down below, and I'll see you guys next time.